Welcome to the real debut episode of Working Title, Same Game Profitability. I am your host, Betya. I want to let you know I own more than one shirt. If you're seeing me wear this and you think this is all I own, it's because I've recorded a lot of shows on the same day and didn't change my shirt. Anyway, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. I am joined and honored to be joined each and every week, I hope, by Canada's favorite son, Gordo. By God, Gambles. Gordo! It has been way too long since you and I did work. Probably since the Horseman. How you doing and how you feeling about this card from a fan and betting perspective?
First of all, I'd like to say I like the name, Same Game Profitability. I like that one. You get my
Pat would like to call it generational wealth. Addicted to Combat, Pat would like to call it that, but we'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll have a chat behind the scenes. But no, I'm honored to be here. Happy to see you as always. I miss seeing you around. I respect the work you've done, and I'm happy to talk down these fights with you, man. It's a fun card. I can't hype it up too much, though. I got to be honest, man. I can't hype it up too much because it is the girlfriend's birthday, so I don't know how much I'm going to watch it. But it just allows me to be hypercritical, focused. I'm not forcing any action. But I am actually looking forward to it. There are some fun fights. I'll definitely go back and rewatch. And I'm excited to see your thoughts on it for sure and see if we align on any of them.
Yeah, when I looked at this card on paper at first, I didn't like a lot of spots. Strangely enough, I only have one bet in, and it's not even one I can track because it's a combo play. It's a play we're going to talk about on the show. But a lot of the bets that I like, the line is still moving in a good direction for me. And there's some spots I'm just going to hit live. So it might be a weird week for me action-wise, like pre-fights. I might be betting a lot of these right before the fights start, just if these lines keep moving in the right direction. But we're not here just to break down the fights typically. That is not the purpose of the show. The purpose of the show is we are going to attack the same game parlays via DraftKings and show you guys what we like, if there's value in doing a same game versus a baked-in prop that DraftKings has, and ways to get some of these bets that, are minus 200 to minus 400 to get them to plus odds, to get them to a scenario that you can feel comfortable with and really get these lines in your favor. So if you are watching this, please hit the like button on the video. Please subscribe to the MMA Engine channel. In 13 months, we've built this thing up pretty good. We offer a lot of cool stuff. We offer Profitability on Mondays with Weezy and Brady. They're killing it. We offer DFS breakdowns. We offer betting breakdowns, props, and now this. We're doing everything we can, trying to provide as many different angles as we can each and every week for you guys. And thanks for putting up with me, Gordo, and the people. Without further ado, now, as another thing to the viewers, we don't have all the same props. Not all same game parlays are built the same. So for the first couple of fights, Gordo and I are going to kind of fly by. We're going to get to the first 6-7 fights, give our thoughts, give little quick bets. And when we get to the main card, then him and I are going to construct some same game parlays for you guys. Gordo, Jacqueline Amorim against Sam Hughes. This is yours to take. Give your thoughts for the people.
Wow, well, it's so kind of you to give me such a high-level fight to start the night. No, I do think it's a fun one. I think it's one where there is an A side to B side, and we are in the MMA Engine, so I got to be nice to Jacqueline Amorim or Brady to get mad at me, and I will be nice to her. I do think that she's someone that they're trying to promote. I do think that she's someone who is marketable, whether it be from her nice little Instagram account looking good there to her nice skills in the mat with all first-round finishes. And I do think that if we're looking to build a same game parlay, her win condition is largely predicated towards wrestling success and probably a finish rate as well. So I would look for maybe some takedown props if they were out there. I'd look towards her to maybe win the fight under 2.5 rounds, maybe even under 1.5 if you're trying to get dicey, just because we haven't really seen her extended too much. I think she's able to find success with the takedowns with someone the same Hughes, though, as a 47% takedown defense. Get her there and then utilize that second tier BJJ black belt. For the sake of the show right now, throw submission in there. But instead of submission, I'd much rather have like one takedown around one or 2 total takedowns or something like that just allows us to get to a better way to play this bigger favorite who we know that is going to have success through the grappling, and especially in my opinion, some very good success as well. So that's the side I would lean for that one.
Couldn't agree more. And Amorim plus 235 to get it done in 7.5 minutes by submission seems pretty good to me. I just want to add that if you wanted to tweak this a little bit and go under or just first 2 rounds, which is this number right here, you get plus 180 for this. that's comparable in the market. It gives you 10 minutes for to get the sub. I personally like the under 1.5 rounds myself. I think one takedown, this fight's probably over. But to what Gordo said, look for a first round takedown in this fight if they extend the same game props for this one. There's a couple other ones I know that you and I both like where we're going to probably be targeting first round takedowns.
For sure.
So let's move on to the next fight. Now, I actually priced this one out, and it's actually better with the baked-in prop that they have. Steve Garcia against Shailin. They're in Betya. He's had 3 fights in the UFC and 1 farce of a fight that we don't really talk about. Quick and easy for me. I'm on the Garcia side. Garcia starts out fast. You're Betya. He's a very slow starter. He started out slow against TJ Brown. Started out very slow against Soriano, who just completely gassed himself out. That's kind of how Soriano fights. So for me, if you go back and look at Garcia's tape, and even just if you want to like wiki cap it, the last time that Garcia had a finish that was over 7.5 minutes was in 2013. When he gets finishes, he gets them done early. So I took a look at Steve Garcia and under 1.5 rounds, and it is plus 600 odds. This is one of my favorite bets on the card. I almost feel like it's his 90% of his win condition. I know some people are on the Garcia no scorecards. Don't hate the play. I think it's a push if it goes past 7-8 minute mark personally. But I priced this out in the same game, and they actually had it at plus 475. So for once, the baked-in parlay pays way more. Give me – and with Gordo, we see this a lot with football where some prop lines move during the week, like if you just want to bet them straight. But if you look at them in same-game parlays, they haven't adjusted their odds accordingly, especially with touchdown props. You and I see that a lot with same-game parlays. Like,
yep.
T. Higgins can be, well, it doesn't matter if I bet T. Higgins. We know he's
who's that? That's not his full name.
He's the guy that T. motherfucking Higgins. Well, you know what he does? He doesn't motherfucking score when I bet him. But I mean, a lot of times when I've built these out, he'll be like plus 210 to score a touchdown in the same game, and he might be plus 150. I mean, so they're slow. It's still an evolving process on DraftKings, these same game parlays, especially with correlated ones or uncorrelated ones, which we'll get to when I get to the Chase Sherman fight. But
oh no.
So for me, Steve Garcia and under 1.5, it's better off not to do this one the same game parlay. I like the plus 600 here. If you do like Shailin, when the touchdown, Jesus, I'm thinking about T. Higgins.
What?
When the takedown props come, if you like the Shailin side, you're going to look for him to get at least 2 takedowns. Probably going to have to control the second and third round. Maybe look for a decision prop there to pad it. But that's what I got for this fight. Gordo.
Stay on that page. You're good.
Okay. I'll stay on this page.
No. Where you were before, and there was what are those called? The to win fight in total rounds.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're going for this next one.
All right. Bahamundis and Ogden, take it away, Gordo.
Well, the fun part right here is the complete opposite of what we're saying here. Or actually, more to your point is we're looking to a spot where the same game parlays can give us a boost, boost what the prop is right here. And the one I'm looking at for sure is Bahamundis to win and over 1.5 rounds. Minus 135 right there. To me, a guy in Dragon who's never been knocked out before, someone in Ignacio Bahamundis who has gone over, I see that right there, who has gone over 7.5 minutes in his last 7 fights consecutive. The guy, including all his UFC fights, this guy typically takes a while to get going. And although I do think he has a huge striking advantage and should win this fight at a very high clip, Dragon seems pretty durable. I think it does get extended. So for this prop here, minus 110 versus minus 135, I don't mind it. I'll probably be playing it as well. The decision line is also better. I think that the Ignacio Bahamundis by decision on like the baked in prop is plus 165, whether as with the same game parlays plus 185. Take a look around, take your time to do that. I don't mind that combination there.
Yeah, I love the 25-cent deal we're getting here. I also favor Bahamundis. I do think a late finish is possible, but he's not typically a first round finisher, especially on this level. I'm not big on Ogden, but he is kind of tough. He can survive, and he can make it ugly too, which I think is important for this fight. Ogden will try to make this as ugly and kill as much time off the clock as possible. So
What's Bahamundis sub, by the way, on the same game?
Do you want to keep it with the over 1.5?
Sure.
Whoa, plus 1,600. Now his sub prop in general is plus 700 on DraftKings.
Yeah, take off the over 1.5 and see. That's what I really wanted to compare it against.
Nah.
See, they got us there. But you know what? In a fight like this, that you have someone Trey Ogden who can be clubbed and subbed is I think that's the way he can be finished. A guy who's as durable as Ogden, who does shoot for bad takedowns. There's a big plus money prop for you.
I mean, you could add 2.5 minutes and just boost it up $1. So there's ways to play with this thing that make sense. I think I've called the Bahamontes submission. I think it's a viable way here, but I think the really safe play. I love the one you have, Bahamontes and over 1.5. I don't think he gets a flash finish here. So I am with you, Gordo, and you have the next fight, I believe, since you and I are doing this all sorts of weird. Well, hey, man,
I did ask for it. I did ask for it. I did.
Cynthia Calvillo against Lupe Godinez.
The main reason why I did ask for this is everyone's kind of scared of this one, and kind of me included, just because of the PTSD Lupe Godinez has given everybody after Angela Hill. I think she's able to turn the ship here. And this is one where I am going to look towards some takedown props. I do think that this is one where I'm going to look to see if she gets some takedowns, and especially in this one where I do rate the scrambling ability of Cynthia Calvillo to be not that bad. Maybe we can get some rinse and repeat. Maybe we can get a higher number of takedowns on the Lupe Godinez side. But if I were to look at anything, especially from a high profit or a high plus money number, I wouldn't be surprised if Lupe's able to find a knockout at some point, a finish. I don't think it's that likely. I'm just thinking the line's extremely wide, especially when I did it there and it's plus 850 as it is. That's a bit wide, in my opinion. However, when the props do come out and I am making a real same game parlay, it'll be Lupe 2+ takedowns. Probably the over 1.5 as well, and see what that gives me.
I love it. And yeah, a lot of people are gun shy this week. I do see some people on the Calvillo side. I am not one of them. And if people want to say that it was a really bad look for Lupe to lose to Angela Hill, who looked great against Dakota and just stuffed a couple of takedowns against Godinez, if you want to say that was a bad look, you know what was the worst look? Calvillo losing to Nina Nunez was a far, far worse look for me than the Godinez
And
fight.
To cement your point, Lupe by KO on the baked done prop is plus 800.
So if you like it, and look, I want to make another point about this that we talked about earlier in the week is, you're talking about the takedowns, which I understand. If this thing stays on the feet, if they somehow neutralize each other, Lupe has a clear edge in power, clear edge in durability. And I mean, I think that KO is very live. And if Calvillo, God forbid, I'm not rooting for this. Well, unless I bet the prop. If she does quit on the stool, there's your KO prop right there. So you never know how these things go. Plus 850 gets me out of bed in the morning. All right. I am looking for something very particular in this next fight. Now, let me put up the here. I got to absolve Gordo of anything I say right now. So
Thank you. I needed that.
I have to absolve Gordo. He is not a part of this. He doesn't want any part of this comment. If it doesn't hit and you bet it, just bring the hate at me, not at Gordo. So I'm going to bet Chase Sherman live, almost assuredly. And the reason is I know Sherman is not good. You know who else isn't good? Is Carl Williams. I don't think Carl Williams is good. I also don't like the quick turnaround. He exerted a ton of energy against Breshke. He did look tired. He's had a couple weeks to recover, but Sherman will be the biggest guy he's ever fought. And I know Sherman's not a great takedown guy, but he's going to be a better striker than Williams. Williams' striking is not very refined at this point. So I'm not encouraging you. I'm not telling you should play Chase Sherman. But there's an idea I have for this, and I'm thinking I'm getting at least 10-1 for this. It's 3 legs. It's going to be Chase Sherman. It's going to be over 299.5 seconds. So just out of the first round, Chase Sherman, and 1 takedown or more by Carl Williams in the first round. If Sherman wins, he's not winning by first round KO. He's either winning because Williams gassed in the second and he decisioned his way to a win, or Williams gasses toward the end of the second and Sherman somehow gets another round 3 KO. The Eric Betts fight special, the round 3 KO from Chase Sherman, which Pat is still making fun of me for grilling for months now. So I think if you get more than 10-1 on this play, I love it. And whether or not you value or rate either one of these guys, put yourself in this position. Would you take almost any bet at 10-1 that's viable against Carl Williams at this stage of his career at heavyweight? I think the answer is yes. But that's why I'm crazy, and that's why the disclaimer is on the bottom of the screen. Do you want to add anything to this, Gordo?
A few things. Number one, love your
Disclaimer's
balls.
off. Disclaimer's off.
Do love your balls in this shot. Sherman round 3 is plus 3,500 in itself. What is it on this?
You're saying round 3 KO though, right?
No, dude, just round 3.
Well, okay,
on the baked in props.
They're not even giving us that with Sherman on the same game here.
On not even the KO. What's
Do we want to do in case he gets a flying toe hold? Is that what we're playing? There you go. 8, you know.
No.
Anyways, somehow this is a bet. By the way, this is a better priced bet than Dontel May's round 3 sub against Hamby, which I like. Still, do no idea why. I mean, I know why I bet it because it was like 120 to 1 on the one book, and I'm like, well, I think it's like an auto bet at this point. Like, but
I'm not here to talk about that fight. That fight is erased from my memory. But I know we want to keep moving on. So I have one question for you. You playing Chase Sherman on DraftKings?
No, not at this price.
Okay, I don't know. No. I didn't know what to expect. You're a bold man.
No, and like I don't even want to play Williams at this price, to be honest, because if Williams does win, he might only get 3 takedowns. He doesn't throw a lot of volume. He's probably not going to get a finish on a slate like this. And what's he, 9,500, right?
Yep.
I know 9,500 is like the golden salary, for Monk. I know. But if he only gets 3 takedowns, control time, and like 30 significant strikes, he's probably not optimal. He's not finish dependent, but that's not optimal. He'd probably need 8, 9 takedowns. He'd need Sherman to have like miraculously come up with a get-up game. So, and Monk brought up a point earlier on our show about these fights. I forget what his phrasing was, but fights where it doesn't equal, where they're unbalanced. That's what he called it. The fights that don't add up to 16,200 in salary have been optimal like 86% of the time. But typically, Gordo, when we see this, we're getting 2 guys at like the 7,000 range fighting each other, or as you in the business call it, the free square. What we get with Ferguson Diaz, wasn't it like 6,900 against 6,800 or something for that main event?
Yeah, that was a mess.
It was like you have to play both of them, and like some 100% of that fight has to be played at those salaries because somebody has to win it. So I always like those great memories. All right, man. Let's go to we wanted to do the Watterson fight next because the Mearshart one actually has. Let's cover Watterson. Let's cover C-Rod, and then we'll go to the ones that we can actually build that have everything. Sound good?
Yeah, and for that Watterson one, I don't know if you got much on it. I definitely do not. So please indulge me.
Well, I actually am going to bet a prop on the draw, which I broke down on props to consider. I think Pereira is very live for a 10-8 in the first, and then I think Watterson she's pretty durable. I think she can, after Pereira gasses. But I'm on the Watterson side here. I don't know that I'm going to get there, but the skill set is, I know she's getting older, but I just don't love Pereira's skill set. She's a one-trick pony here, and I kind of think Watterson can weather the storm in the first round and really take over cardio-wise. So I would look, this is one of these ones that's not correlated where if I'm going to play Watterson, I would play Pereira to get 1 takedown in the first round or to have the most takedowns. And typically on these same games, you're going to get like crazy spikes in your price when you're betting each fighter to do something that runs counter to what they think the fight script should be. So I think you might be able to get a pretty big number if you like Watterson, but you think Pereira wins the first. But
that was my reasoning for sure. And I like when I was looking at building just something to present on this show, even though we are lacking the amount of props, it was just Watterson by decision, which was nothing that pretty.
And hey, DraftKings, if you're watching, we're trying to promote your product. We're trying to build tons of parlays so people can spend all their money responsibly, of course, but all their money on your site. Just give us the props for every single one of these fights in the same game, and we will handle the rest. All right, this is the last one that doesn't have everything. And Gordo, we are both very disappointed that this doesn't have it yet because That's what I was thinking. Real Roses Jr. against C-Rod, an excellent fight to lead off the main card. Obviously, this is Fight Gordo where takedown props seem important to make this an optimal price. Walk us through your pick on the fight and how you're going to approach the same game when all the odds come out.
Yeah, and it's a precarious one because you have to think that there are going to be some opportunities for Rosas to look to finish. I just don't know if he's necessarily able to get them that early on. I think Rodriguez is very, very slimy, and although I think that Rodriguez can put up a fight, at the end of the day, if I have to pick a winner, it is going to be Rosas just because he is so relentless with those takedowns. He is the one the UFC is trying to promote. He is somebody who is just going to do whatever it takes to get this fight to the ground, try to capitalize off a mistake from Rodriguez. I think he's able to get one. So for me, if I'm looking at to play something, it would be an abundance of takedowns, the takedown market of Raul Rosas Jr. And then I would also look at like it's one of these ones where I think it's a later finish. So it'd be like over half a round, but submission. You know what I mean? And then takedown props.
Yeah, so plus 225 just for if we're just doing it this way with him getting a submission in over 2.5 minutes. If you want to look at it this way, hold on. Just decide. I think it's plus 200 last I looked. I could be wrong. Plus 165. So that's a pretty big difference. It's a 60-cent difference just for C-Rod, a guy who has never been finished, by the way, to last 2.5 minutes in this fight. So another good way to play it. I'm actually going to be on the C-Rod side. I am going to be live betting it, though. I'm going to be live, but it's another one of those fights I'm live betting. I don't think he wins the first round at a very high clip here. We've seen him taken down in the first round, both of his UFC fights. I realized that the Pierce one was short notice up a weight class, but the Weems one, it wasn't a good look getting taken down in the first minute of that fight. I think Rosas is going to get a takedown. He's going to put him in some spots, but C-Rod's been tough. Let's see what kind of condition he looks at. Let's see what the price is after 1-2, because if he's sitting there at plus 500 or better, C-Rod, because this line's only going to keep moving until Saturday. I think people are going to be throwing Rosas in a lot of parlays. I don't really see any steam going to be coming back on the C-Rod side. If you can get him at plus 500 after one, I don't know, man. Rosas Jr. didn't look as fresh as a daisy in the third round in a Contender Series fight. I'm not worried about that with C-Rod. Could be an interesting play. My only concern before we move on is that I don't want to do the narrative nation stuff. That's not typically what I like. But everything you said, they're setting up Rosas Jr. like he's the guy they're trying to feature. What does C-Rod really have to do to win a decision here? Does he need a 10-8 round? I mean, like, if this thing's close, you see where I'm going with this. Like, he may need a dominant round that's like an unquestioned 10-8. And even if it's an unquestioned 10-8, it doesn't mean the judges are going to give him a 10-8. That's my concern.
He's going to be overwhelmed. So he's going to need to get up and outstrike Rosas, which I think he can. It's just at what percentage?
Yeah. So I don't know. Probably not much. So we've covered 7 fights very quickly. Now the next 6 fights, Gordo and I are going to build these on air for you guys. These are the ones that DraftKings has given us everything. We had to go a little bit out of order because the main card is missing, 1 or 2 here. But we'll start with Gerald Meerschaert against Joe Pyfer. Now this should be good for everybody because I know Gordo and I are on opposite sides of this. So Gordo, I will start with you. Tell us how you're approaching this. Tell us how to bet Joe Pyfer.
You know what, man? I sound like a broken record at this point. Where are takedown props? Come on. Anyways.
I thought we had him here.
No, we don't. Broken record.
Right.
That's where I think I'm going to get the most plus money is I think that despite Meerschaert's only path to victory, in my opinion, being on the ground, I would love to see what the line for Pyfer most takedowns is because I think he lands one at some point, which is so weird to say. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I think I get an absurd number for someone who trains from Renzo Gracie Philly, who's going to be able to just try to think he can take down and control Jared Meerschaert, which although I think Pyfer's able to, I think it's giving Meerschaert the best opportunity to win the fight. So I'm not saying it's a smart thing for him to do. I'm saying we could probably get some pretty good plus money on that price. If we're looking at what we have now, though, in my eyes, I think Pyfer is able to get him out of there a bit later on. So in my eyes, it's a Pyfer over 4.5 minutes, but under 8.99 seconds, plus 245.
Okay, so they're not even
Oh,
giving. Oh, because I have the KO prop in there, so that I don't.
ah,
It's not going to help. So plus 300 for the KO. We'll call it 2-3. So I like that, and I don't think you're crazy to think that he can get a takedown here. I actually think it could play out. I mean, he's more powerful than Jotko. Like, I know that's not a
yeah.
real hot take, but we did see how Jotko strategically went to the wrestling in certain spots to win minutes of the fight. I mean, obviously I'm a Philly guy, so I'm gonna, lean with my Philly guys in a sense. But I don't see why Pfeiffer wouldn't try it if he's confident that he can just do it against the cage and stay out of trouble, especially early in the fight.
And what do you think they aligned the three-way takedown line at? Because they got to think that.
Well, GM3 is not the funny thing about GM3 is it's not like he's great at takedowns. He's great at accepting position. So I wonder how sharp they'll be on that line. They really don't have a lot to work with Pfeiffer in terms of how to price it, right? Like if we're going to get a price, he's going to be plus money, I think, Pfeiffer, and he probably doesn't.
Which
He
is
probably
all I
shouldn't
want.
be. Yeah, and we might
That's all I
not get
want.
that ever again. So I like it. So I think Pfeiffer wins this fight. This is so hard for me this week because I love GM3. He's like one of my favorites. I've also been really good at betting his fights. Like he's one of my better guys that I've like bet against, bet on. Like I've hit his round threes. Here's what I want to tell you, and then we're gonna move on to the next fight. So if you're gonna take Mearshart and you want to take him by Mearsharting, which would mean Gerald Mearshart and round 2-3 sub. I know if a lot of people are gonna do the round 3, but throw round 2 in there as well. You're getting a price of plus 550. Now, I'm not sponsored by any sports book, so I can freely speak of this. If you like this bet, go to FanDuel. It's plus 650 for the same bet. Like it's literally plus 650 for this bet, and you can't really configure this bet any better than it is. So if you like that kind of play, I think Mearshart's, then you would go over there. Plus 550. I can't say I love it, especially because I really think Pfeiffer is live in round 2. Like, I don't know. Pfeiffer's not round 1 or bust here. Do you think so, Gordo? Or
No, Pfeiffer will be there.
I mean, is there any chance, do you see a scenario where this goes to decision? Because I know people like the time props here, but the under 2.5, the all under is like minus 350. Fight doesn't go is minus 500. They're borderline unplayable at this point.
I don't think it's likely it goes to decision, but I think it's realistic. Like Pfeiffer decides he wants to be patient. He wants to strike from outside, not able to land that kill shot, or he decides to take him down. It is certainly a possibility, just not one that I think is that likely.
Yeah. So I agree. So now we're going to move on to ones that I know we have all the things. I will start with this one. By the way, guys, I have no idea what Gordo's picks are. So I knew that last one, but I don't really know going forward. I think he likes Gilbert Burns in the one fight, but I'm guessing. So I am on the Gastelum side here. And I believe that this fight, I wrote this whole thing down. Hold on. I believe that, I think the over hits at a pretty high clip, but for the sake of what I'm trying to do, I'm just going to put over 1.5. Here's the thing I think is interesting. I mean, this is where you're going to get some value, and I want to just talk about it before I add it. I know that Curtis's takedown defense in the UFC is impeccable. It's perfect, I believe.
No, we're gonna have the same one.
Okay, I'm gonna do Gastelum most takedowns. I think Gastelum. Let's put it this way: there's only 2 ways this bet's gonna go. Either it's gonna be a push, and you're gonna hate yourself that you didn't take the push, or it's gonna be Gastelum. So now I got it to plus 220 for Gastelum to get the most takedowns, aka Gastelum to get, in my opinion, 1 takedown. I know Curtis's takedown defense has been good, but I just want to talk about 2 fights in particular. He was 6 for 6 defending against Hermanson. Hermanson wasn't really hardcore going for takedowns, though. His takedowns he was going for were to set up, getting Curtis out of range, being able to stay at distance. Like anytime Curtis was getting in the pocket, that's when Hermanson would threaten the takedowns. So they weren't like real attempts to get Curtis down. The Vieira fight, he was shooting from 12 feet away because he was exhausted. So, how much stock do you put into this? I'm not saying Curtis's takedown defense is bad in any metric, by the way. His takedown defense is good. But Gastelum is able, at his peak, at his average, I would say, able to mix it in. He knows how to win minutes. He knows how to steal minutes. And if Curtis if he lands something that hurts Gastelum, we know his head's like a brick. We know he doesn't typically get knocked out. Gastelum, we know he's durable. But if he gets rocked, I mean, what should he do? Go to his wrestling and try to get a takedown and recover. How do you feel about this play? Should we tweak it if you're on the Gastelum side?
I have a very similar one. I just got a little bit more risky, and I played the tie on knockdowns because I think both these guys are durable guys. Curtis has not been knocked down within the UFC. Gastelum's only been knocked down by 2 people since 2014, and they are named Jared Cannonier and Israel Adesanya. So I guess it's a nice plus 400. Yeah, because I just had the over 2.5, I think, instead. But yeah, plus 400, plus 450. That's what I'm going with.
Love it. I love the tie there, too. I don't think anybody gets knocked down in this fight, so that's a pretty good look. All right, Gordo. We are moving on. We are at, I am not sure. We're at Kevin Holland and Ponzi.
I'm struggling with this one. I don't know about you.
I'm not going to bet it yet. Maybe if I've been drinking. But I want to think that Holland knocks him out. But at the same time, I've watched enough Kevin Holland fights to know that, what you think is going to happen is it's like Murphy's Law. It's, almost assuredly not going to happen. But I do have a way I would target it here. I want to see what you have to say first.
I was just messing around with one. Yeah. If you do Holland most knockdowns.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
same thing.
See, the only other way I was looking at, and again, that's probably the best way to go. Plus 295. I also have method of victory KO, but maybe that's what I have. But the only other thing that's really scaring me is because I don't think there's any takedowns, so I kind of want to put the tie. But I think that's going a bit overboard. Same thing with the significant strikes. I feel like it could be a case where Ponzinibbio has decent volume, but I'm limited to this right now. But it's so funny because if you think that Ponzinibbio goes in, lands a bunch of volume, and then Kevin Holland turns it on, knocks him out, if you add in Ponzinibbio most significant strikes, it's plus 700. It's just a bit bold.
I was looking at, so I have the exact same thing. So this is nice. The exact same play that you just put in. My concern here, I know people like the Holland sub. Stop. I think he's going to want to just get it done. Ground and pound's liable to here. The way Ponzi looked against Morono, I don't want to break down the whole way he looked. I mean, he was losing that fight till he wasn't. But even in the first round, he looked like he could have been put away in the first round. And I think if Holland lands anything close to what Morono did on him in the first, it's over. So I'm hesitant to do significant strikes because it may not take many to get this thing done. On the Holland side, anyway, I'm skeptical of it. But
what about takedowns?
As in Holland having the most, or just getting one, or just anybody getting one?
I was thinking it was a tie. I don't think there's any takedown shot. Am I crazy?
I mean, I can't see Ponzi going for one, but who knows, man?
You're right. Why get cute with it? We got a nice plus 250 already.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kevin Holland. He's just,
he's an entertainer.
Kevin Holland doesn't know what Kevin Holland's going to do. Why should we?
Yeah.
I think in the Means fight when he got the submission, and I think a lot of us had that too. I had round 2, so
I had it.
It's one of the few bets I won on that whole card. That card was a disaster for me, that Texas card. It's an absolute disaster. It's one of the props I hit. But he even said going into it, he wanted to showcase his wrestling. He wanted to showcase that he'd been working on it. And Means was a pretty good opponent because Means was happy to be like, all right, I'm sick of getting hit. I'm cool going to the ground. So I think that was a good spot for him. He did it against Alex Oliveira after he was getting lit up in the first round. So I don't know, man. I know what a fighter we watch the sport enough to know that's the frustrating thing for anybody watching, for us as gamblers, is when we know what the game plan should be. I'm not a professional fighter. I'm just a fan. I'm just a dude gambling. I'm just a guy that likes watching fights. When it's obvious to us what the strategy should be, and they just completely don't do it, nothing is more frustrating than when your money's gone and the fight's still going on, right? I don't want to bring up Carl Williams again, but my Jimmy Lawson bet, I was dead in 10 seconds. I'm like, oh, that's awesome bet, Lou. Tremendous.
I'm there with you.
All right. Now let's get to the final three fights. Rob Font, Adrian Yanez. You start this one off because I got the last one. I have no idea what side you're on for this fight. We might be on different sides. This might be interesting.
Well, the real question, and this is no hot take, everybody knows this, is how is Rob Font's durability? Because I think when it comes to level of competition, technicality, multitude of MMA facets, Rob Font should not be an underdog at this wide. And I think that he has viability to win this fight being an underdog. It's just, can you trust his chin considering the way he has looked his last two performances against Vera? I mean, if he didn't get dropped those last 30 seconds of those rounds, he wins that fight based on volume. So there's no debate that Yannis has power. There's no question that it's going to be Yannis's biggest test to date. Can he pass it? Who knows? Considering the fact that Yannis is relatively a slower starter, Font may be able to take over the fight goes. So mine's 3 legs plus 340. We're going Rob Font. We're going decision. And we're going 1+ total knockdown by anybody.
Really interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's not as good of a line as I wanted.
All right.
But I think at one point there might be.
So plus 340 from Gordo. Now, I have a different same game parlay, but I'm also on the Font side, and I think the year off will be good for him. Like definitely the break he took after the Vera fight's going to help. But my version of this is slightly different. I like Font, and if Font is going to win, it means Font is landing the jab over and over and over and over and over again. So that gets us to plus 250. I also think that Font is going to have to stay out of trouble here. I think he's going to have to use his vet savvy. I'm going to play Rob Font to have the most takedowns. He would need one. Again, I don't think, Yanez is not going for a takedown here. I wouldn't think. If anybody's getting one, it's going to be Rob Font. He's had a takedown in, I think 3 of his last 4 fights. I know they're 5-round fights, but, he's even attempted him against Aldo. He's definitely going to attempt him here. So I think he can land one. Yanez has never been taken down in the UFC. I want to make that clear. I think he's 6 for 6, I believe, in defending him. But who's he defending him against? So Font at least has some wrestling in his back pocket. I just think this is another interesting way to look at it. If anybody's going to, with these kind of plays, if you know that only one guy has any takedown equity and you give me plus money to boost it, I think so. And for Font to win, what do you think if I take that out? Just the significant strikes. I mean, even at plus 245 here, it's not a huge boost on his money line, but isn't that his win condition is just landing a ton of jabs, right?
I don't think he knocks out Giannis.
Right. So, if we had decision of this, you could barely see. That's awful. It's an awful bump. But, yeah, nice to know you're on the Font side. Shout out to my friend Sharksta, who I know you know, big DFS guy in the community. Shark gives out free plays. Every once in a while, he loads up an absolute Vegas Dave whale bomb free play. And he's been talking to me for 3 weeks about he is unleashing the clip on Font. He's like, do I need to sell you on it?
Really?
I'm like, oh, yeah. And he's not a cocky man. He's a cool guy. When he feels this confident, it's hard not, as a friend and as a fellow guy in the community, to not be like, oh, man. All right. So, hey, man, we do the best we can with tape, but sometimes you got to trust your instincts. But now here's an interesting one. Gilbert Burns and George Masvidal. I know there's a lot of people in the community. They're betting Masvidal KO. I am not one of those. I think Burns rolls here. But Gordo, help us out. Let's talk. You and I have a variation of this that's really similar. So let's have yours that I know yours doesn't have Burns even winning, right?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because I will be playing some Jorge Masvidal on DraftKings. And I know, don't come at me. It just allows me to get a lot of other players in my lineups, okay?
Sure.
I know. But it's pretty simple. I think I've seen it a couple times on Twitter as well, but it's just fighter props, total takedowns, round 1. Whoops, I pressed knockdowns by accident. Please do not do that.
So immediately you're getting something that's almost even money, which is great.
Yep. And then we're going most takedowns for Gilbert Burns as well. Oh, wait, that doesn't help it at all. What was the other leg I had? I know I sent it to you. Uh-oh.
Was it
Gordo's not
over?
prepared.
Was it over
Over
a
a
half?
yeah. I think it was
Like
something that
this.
just bumped it up to plus money.
Right. And I think and then you don't care who wins. And I think this is an excellent way to play this fight. You're not betting a 5-1 favorite. I think it's great. And if you had Burns, it's not going to really bump. I think it's to 150. Yeah. So honestly, you don't need to get greedy here with this money line because you could win this. I mean, literally in 2.5 minutes, you'd win this bet. So
yep.
You're still banking. I know Masvidal, people can say what they want right now. And I'm one of them. I think kind of his foot's out the door, but guy doesn't get finished early. He's pretty durable in his career, except for, traditionally he's been pretty durable. His takedown defense, his ground game's been good enough. I mean, he's going to be in a world of trouble here against Burns, but I don't see Burns finishing him in the first couple of seconds.
Yeah,
no. I mean,
no.
if you want to add I don't know if this is going to bump it at all, but no, they don't care. I mean, if you want to let's just,
Doesn't
here
bump
you go. Hold on. Well, 2.5 minutes is the same as, they don't care. Plus 110. Plus 110. They know. They have it priced different, but they know. So I'm on the same kind of play. And shout out to our guy, Danny, who also does these kind of things. And I like this. We were all talking about how do you get a minus 500 down? That's the point of the show, man. How do you get a minus 500 to a bettable play? Gordo, this is the way you get it to a bettable. Very easy. And then if you then you know what? Then you can root for Masvidal on all your lineups, Gordo. Then you just go ham with it.
Please do not say all my lineups. Very minuscule amount. I'm just saying, I'm not counting them out completely.
What percentage are you going to play him? I know what Monk's going to play. Like I'll tell you what Monk's going to play. I'll make a deal. Yeah, I'll tell you what Monk's going to play if you tell me.
I think I'm still sub 25. I think I'm like 18 or 20.
Yeah, Monk's about that too. I'm going to be. Well, I don't know how many. I'm probably going to play 10 lineups, so I might have him in one most. I'll probably have Garcia in way too many. Just like I had Chase Hooper in, I think 100% of my lineups, and that at least I knew my night was over. So
don't worry, I gave out a Stars and Scrubs Supreme lineup on Pub Sports Radio on Wednesday.
I
think it was.
I listened.
Oh, you saw that Stars and Scrubs lineup?
Oh yeah,
I'm taking some shots on DraftKings. I'm taking some shots.
Hey, I mean, I know this isn't a DFS show, but you and I both know one of the ways if you want to win big in DFS is you got to go unique, and sometimes you got to go contrarian. And Stars and Scrubs is certainly a way to at least that half of your lineup can win you $100,000. Man, you never know. Shit, Malcolm Gordon almost won me $100,000.
Oh, or Dennis Bondar?
No, when he beat I had Bondar. No, when he beat Figueiredo, because that was the night that Billy Q put up an insane 170 points against Mugli, and I don't know if he was my last guy, but all I needed was that was Islam Moises was the main event. That wasn't the one that beat me. It was Misha Tate scoring 9 million points against Renault at I think she was 8,200, and I was Billy Q was underdog price for that. I think he was 7,900,
which is
on
wild.
that card against Mugli. I was a pick 'em, man. I mean, Billy Q, round 3 legend. All right, let's get to the main event. We have, what do you want to call it? The fourth, the second, doesn't matter. Fourth, Pereira, Adesanya. I don't know who do you want? You want to start this one? Or you want me to start it?
You can start it.
Okay. I am, and not with uber confidence, but I'm on the Pereira side. I'm not even going to bother with a huge breakdown here. He's beaten him 3 times. I bet a lot of soccer, as Gordo knows. We have a term called bogey team. There are teams that no matter who the coach is, no matter what the roster is, there's just teams that can't beat other teams. They can't. And I'm talking over 70 game samples over 30 years. It'll be and I'm not talking Manchester United against a bottom feeder. There's just weird configurations where teams just cannot figure out how to win. Maybe Adesanya just can't beat this guy. Was he winning the fight until he lost last time? Yes. Was he dominating? He was up 3-1. I don't know if he was dominant, but he was winning. And then he wasn't. You could cite the 3-0 record for Pereira. You could cite, I think it's 13 out of the last 17 immediate rematches. The sitting champion in the first fight, won. So I side with Pereira. Where I struggle with this fight, Gordo, is a lot of people don't think Pereira has decision equity. I think he has decision equity. I mean, I completely do. Now, whether or not he, I don't know. I mean, Pereira's not KO or bust for me. And the other thing is that people are pretty adamant that Adesanya is going to become like D1 Adesanya and go to takedowns. Well, Pereira had a takedown last fight too. So I want to show you what I like here. At least what I'm leaning on, but I might be able to be talked out of this. So I like Pereira. I think he has decision equity, but I do think he gets the KO here. That gets me to plus 210. If anybody in this fight goes for a takedown, we're bumped to 400. And I got to think one of them will. But that's the risk we take. I mean, if they each attempted one last fight, and Adesanya knows that Pereira has a weakness here, but who's to say, like, Pereira's still so young in this sport. He's only going to improve. It's not like he doesn't, like, if you're him, are you spending 40 hours a week working on your kickboxing? Or are you taking half of that and being like, I need to learn grappling and wrestling? It's not just for this fight, Gordo. He's got Khamzat waiting for him at some point. He's got Whitaker waiting for him at some point. You might have my boy Bo Nickel at some point. He's going to be facing people where this is going to catch up to him. He's got to start working on it now. Could he be proactive here? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not very confident in anything on this one.
Sorry, I forgot to put this up. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes me want to say something rambunctious.
Do it.
Like Pereira's going to get a sub.
Our legal team will protect you. Our legal team you're covered while you're on air.
For me, when I was building these same game parlays, I went very conservative, and I didn't expect you to touch this prop at all, but you did already. And I just went over 1 total takedown and over 3.5 rounds for plus money.
You're not even taking. I love it.
Just don't take a winner. I think it's going over 1.5. Don't even take whoever's going to wrestle. Actually, I just built it now, though, and it is no longer plus money. So feel free to go add 19.5 minutes instead, because they bumped it, apparently. Same thing. Fight starts round 5. Yep. And 1 takedown by anybody.
Yep.
And that's plus money. And that's me taking the coward's way out of saying, I think Israel Adesanya should win this fight. However, like you said, some people just have their enemies, right? Like, I'm a huge Max Holloway fan. He can't beat Volkanovski. Volkanovski's better than him. I think Izzy's a great fighter, but sometimes you just can't beat these people. They're kryptonite. And even though I think Adesanya should win this fight, he hasn't been able to before. So why would I put money on something I haven't seen happen yet? So I do think Izzy wins. I do think he is the rightful favorite here. But this way, I have the ability to not have to pick a side, and I can just take the over, which I think happens at a very high clip. I don't think that Izzy gets knocked out too often. And I get to see if D1 anybody shows up, that we get ourselves a nice good line there.
I have a buddy named Mike that I used to play pool with all the time. He was a league pool player. I'm like so mediocre at pool. I'm a dart shooter. I'm not great at pool. I don't play a lot. I'm not good at it. I'm all right. Mike was very good. Mike's record against me, and we always bet a beer, I think he lost 24 games in a row to me. He'd crush me the whole game, and he'd scratch on the 8 ball. Like, he just could not beat me. And it got to the point where it just got so in his head. He'd get to the 8 ball, he'd have the easiest shot you could have, and he'd just look at me, and I'm like, I mean, you know what's going to happen, right? And he just, 6 rail scratch, just unbelievable, So it happens, man. And, Adesanya can be as confident as he wants right now, and he can win minutes of that fight. But he's going to be nervous leading up to it, whether or not he wants to admit it. And he's going to be nervous as shit, Gordo, when round 5 starts. He's going to be sitting there like, here we go. I mean, and this isn't like an insult to him. It's natural in this game. These are true. You get knocked out. It's traumatic. It's life altering. Even if it's not a violent knockout, it's still a traumatic life experience. So we'll see, man. But we have taken you through all the fights and in less than an hour, which I'm impressed with.
I'm so sad. There's no like takedown props for a lot of these fights, man.
Yeah, and like, anybody watching this, if you're watching this, you probably follow Gordo on Twitter. You probably follow me. If you don't, just go do it. Shame on you for not already. But also, we're the kind of people like on Saturday morning or Friday night, like when these things come out, I'm happy to post what I'm actually putting in. Like, I'm happy to say, like, all right, these are out. This is what it pays. Like, I'm locked in. I know Gordo is very much the same way. We're both very transparent about our betting tickets. So
just don't track your same game parlays.
Yeah, you don't want to get yelled at by people on the internet. Once you get to a certain age and you get yelled at by people, you're like, well, I write shit I shouldn't write, but I know if Brady and you yell at me for something I write, I know I did wrong. Unless you're like, Lou, get him. Like, go do it. I'm like, all right. Gloves are off.
You know what? It was one of those things where it's like, I did it. I'm like, oh yeah, this just makes sense. And it's like, oh yeah, they're kind of right. But
I had a problem with it I had a problem with it and they fixed it where I had Shevchenko in over 1.5 rounds. And that's what I wanted to. And they let me put both in because it was minus 175, I think, or 165. I forget what it was, but I'm like, and the over hits easily and Shevchenko loses and they graded it as a win. And I'm like, whoa, I don't want to get yelled at. I want to get yelled at by the people. So I wrote to the guy and I'm like, hey, man, I thought this is how it worked for like a two. I didn't realize you couldn't track this. He said it's coming down the road, but it's so specific to like one book right now that I don't know.
Yo,
from an engineering perspective, we'll say.
Shout out to Mike from Bet MMA Tips.
Great. He's great.
I've messed up tracking a few times, but I bother him so much I don't want to do it again. Like at this point, I tracked a bet on Amarim by inside the distance at plus 115. Then I checked another book and it's plus 130. So I cashed out of one book and bet it on the other, but it's already tracked. So it's too late now.
Yeah. It is what it is. And before we sign off, since you mentioned Mike, this will be the third show in a row that I do this. Shout out, happy birthday to our other Mike that we love, Mike's MMA Picks.
Yes,
turning undisclosed age today. He could be 30, he could be 54. I don't know. I'll say happy
birthday, Mike.
I want to say like happy 36th birthday. The total guess. Leave your guesses in the comments. Tell Mike to watch the video. He can inform the masses about how old he really is. But I think he's younger than me. So, Gordo.
Happy birthday, Mike.
You did a ton of work today. Aside from this show, please tell the people where they can find all your work. Promote everything, including your work with Brett Apley, who may or may not do a prop show with me in the near future.
Brett Apley, double T, double P, like he always says. But no, you can find all my work on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. My full card picks and predictions for both DraftKings and betting is now live up there. Feel free to go check that out. I do work with Brett Apley for Daily Fan MMA, so I just recorded a full card breakdown there. Not only do I do that, but I help out with the DraftKings projections as well as the written breakdown. So if you sign up over there, you get access to a great projection machine. You get the access to all the written breakdowns, all of the podcasts I did as well, which is all pretty fun. And then I also work with Ryan Larkin for Daily Fan Racing. So I help out a little bit with NASCAR. I'm still learning about that, but I think that's a very fun show that we do weekly. So it's fun to have that MMA on Saturday, NASCAR on Sunday kind of vibe, especially until the NFL comes back up. So I've enjoyed doing the show with you, Lou. I've missed hanging out with you. I've missed seeing your face on the NFL Bell. It's just like I see your face every Saturday morning when I watch Happy Hour. And that's about it. I haven't done a show with you in a while. I got to get those horsemen back together.
The last bet I made on the NFL Bell was any kick to hit off the post at plus 450. I may retire. I nailed that.
You honestly should after that.
Done. I quit.
It's the last thing I
did. Of course. My $10 bet I had on it. But if you watch this, you can find me on Twitter, Lou Betya. All the stuff on the channel, like I mentioned, Profitability with Weezy and Brady. It's always on Mondays. Monk releases tons of DFS content. Him and I had our 50th happy hour today, which is crazy that we've made it this far. Prop show today with Brady and Luke was pretty goddamn funny. Watching Luke like wondering what he got himself into being on the channel. This show with Gordo, which is going to quickly become one of my favorites because I love the math that goes into these. Good luck on your bets this weekend, everybody. We will see you next week for another episode of Working Title, Same Game Profitability. Take care, guys.
See you.